is the Bugatti Chiron, one of the world's fastest, most expensive cars ever produced. And today I feel incredibly grateful to be given the opportunity to actually review one. It's amazing, it's been 14 years since the Bugatti Veyron came out in 2005. It took the world by storm with $1 million price tag, 1,001 horsepower, and a top speed of 253 miles an hour, absolutely shattering the previous record held by the McLaren F1. Ending production in 2011, the Veyron left an enormous impact on the automotive world, pushing boundaries farther than anyone thought was possible. The Veyron wasn't loved by everyone, however, often criticized for its looks as well as its weight. It was incredibly fast in a straight line, but not particularly good around corners, especially for the price. Regardless, creating a worthy successor to such an incredible piece of machinery was no small feat. Although they've done that and more with the Bugatti Chiron. In fact, in the design briefing, there was one goal in mind: create a successor to the Veyron that was better in every single way. Special thanks to Wheels Boutique in Miami, Florida, as well as ANRKY Wheels for making this video possible. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Wheels Boutique and at ANRKY Wheels to stay up to date. ANRKY makes some of the best wheels in the business. They're manufactured by HRE. They actually made wheels for my car, and Wheels Boutique is an incredible one-stop shop for modifying your car, installing aftermarket performance parts, as well as wheels. The Chiron was announced at the 2016 Geneva Motor Show. It was named after famous racing driver Louis Chiron, who had the most podium finishes out of any Bugatti driver of all time. Its base price was a lofty $3 million. That's 3 times more than the Veyron. But what's incredible is how striking and beautiful the Chiron really is. Bugatti claims that form follows performance and that everything was done based on improving aerodynamics and speed, but there's no denying it is significantly more good-looking than the Veyron. Up front, we've got Bugatti's signature horseshoe grille that's present on every single Bugatti model since its inception. We've also got some of the coolest headlights ever to be fitted on a car. These quad LED headlights are beautiful, and what's more, you can tell the attention to aerodynamics as well as cooling in the Chiron based on this feature right here. To the inside of the LEDs is actually a vent for air to pass through and provide additional cooling to the brakes. But what's more, when you walk up to the car and unlock it, the LED headlights do a little light show for you. They come on sequentially one by one. Check this out, it's pretty awesome. The front of the Chiron is significantly more aggressive looking than the Veyron, as aggressive as its ambitions to be the fastest car in the world. Another thing to note is while Bugatti had extreme attention to weight savings with the Chiron, although it's not exactly the lightest car on the planet, although developing something that's reliable and that has a top speed well excess of 250 miles an hour requires components that weigh quite a bit, they paid no attention to weight savings with the Bugatti emblem, which is crafted of 970 fine, pure solid silver. That's right, the logo is made of solid silver. Around the side, you'll notice one of the Chiron's most distinctive features, and that is the presence of this massive C-line. Bugatti calls it the Bugatti line. Very creative name, but it's very effective at both looking aesthetically pleasing and also channeling airflow into the engine. Obviously, cooling is one of the most important elements in making the Chiron as powerful and as fast as it is. Get this, for instance. Air is rammed into the side here, and at full tilt, the Chiron circulates 60,000 liters of air every minute. And for additional cooling, 800 liters of water swirl throughout the powertrain to cool it down. Now, obviously, with a car with a tremendous top speed, we need impressive brakes. Get this, for instance, the front brakes on the Bugatti Chiron are 8 pistons in the calipers and 6 in the rear. And unlike any other production road car, the pistons are made from lightweight titanium. What's more, in order to cool the brakes even further, we've got these F1 inspired heat shields that actually project heat outwards away from the wheels and the brakes. And they actually created this inadvertent effect that causes downforce. That's right, the front brakes on the Chiron actually create downforce, and it's able to stop from 249 miles an hour to 0 in just 10 seconds. Now you'll notice on the passenger side of this car is what seems to be a fuel filler cap. Usually on European cars, it's located on the passenger side. That's because the engine bay, you can't actually open it. You're not able to service your Chiron yourself. This actually is for inserting oil. On the other side, we've got the space to put gas in it. The Bugatti Veyron had an infamous reputation for extraordinarily high maintenance costs, like a $20,000 oil change, or a set of 4 tires that cost you 33 grand, and they have to be replaced every 2,500 miles. And what's more than that, on the 4th time you have to replace your tires, so 10,000 miles into your ownership, you have to replace the wheels on the Veyron to the tune of $120,000. That's because they use this pack system that actually glued the tires to the wheels themselves, because at the time that was the only way the Veyron was capable of hitting such high top speeds. Thankfully now with the Chiron, the tires are mounted in a normal fashion, which means you'll see a lot more aftermarket wheels. It also makes it significantly cheaper to replace the tires, and the wheels withstand the lifespan of the car. In this case, we have beautiful ANRKY wheels finished in red that look fantastic in person. So there you go. You can put aftermarket wheels on your Chiron, which is really difficult to do on the Veyron, and you might save a bit of money or a lot of money on tires. Although 355 millimeter Cup 2s, they're probably still pretty expensive to replace. The rear of the Chiron looks absolutely menacing. We have these gorgeous LED taillights, and in the center, a massive LED light bar. Now you'll notice the rear end of the Chiron is half made up of grills. That's to improve cooling of the engine bay. We also have a plethora of carbon fiber, as well as a gorgeous titanium exhaust. Up here we have an adaptive wing that's 39% wider than the wing found on the Veyron. It also operates in 4 different positions. There's all the way down, which I don't know why you'd ever do that. It looks so much cooler with it up. Then in handling and Autobahn modes, we'll talk more about the driving modes when we actually get inside the car and take it out on the road, it has its maximum height position. Then in top speed mode, it's somewhere in the middle, just like this. And the 4th mode that it can go into, when you're hard under braking, it tilts forwards to create more drag and work as an air brake. One thing the keen observer might notice is while this is a North American spec Bugatti, it doesn't have the hideous additional bumpers. What do I mean by that? Well, when these cars are delivered to the United States, in order to meet safety standards for crash testing, they needed additional bumper pieces mounted on the rear of the Veyron. And they are some of the ugliest things I have ever seen, like 2 giant horseshoes that look completely out of place. The good news is you can remove them very easily, and on day 1 of this car's life in the United States, they were taken off. Perhaps the most impressive part of the entire Chiron is right here, the engine. It's 8 liters. It has 16 cylinders and 4 turbochargers. That's 4 times every single component of a standard car. We might have a 2-liter single turbo 4-cylinder. Well, this is an 8-liter W16 with 4 turbos. On it, you see 1,500. That means 1,500 PS or 1,479 horsepower and 1,180 pound-feet of torque. The Chiron is capable of a top speed of 261 miles an hour. But the craziest part is, that's not its actual top speed. That's electronically limited because of current tire technology. The Chiron is capable of a lot higher speeds than that, perhaps upwards of 280 miles an hour, according to some of its engineers. In fact, the engine itself weighs almost 1,000 pounds. That's part of the reason why the Chiron weighs somewhat of a plump 4,400 pounds. The inside of the Chiron is absolutely mesmerizing. Every single component of the interior is made of exquisite materials, as you'd expect for a $3 million plus car. There's carbon fiber everywhere, all over the steering wheel, the center console, even extending over the dash and the doors. We've got beautiful, sumptuous leather throughout, as well as aluminum. On the steering wheel, the paddles feel incredible incredible to deploy. Every single button, I basically tested every button in the entire interior, feels nice to press. Usually auto manufacturers will skimp out on something, whether it's the window switches or the mirror controls, but every single button in the Chiron feels fantastic, especially the dials here in the center of the dash. There's even attention to detail placed on the seatbelt. The part where you insert the seatbelt has a felt piece on the backside to make sure it never makes any annoying noises in the cabin. Even the glove box makes an incredibly satisfying noise when you press the button to open it. Inside the glove box, we've got a bit of an owner's manual cheat sheet that is in matching leather to the gorgeous red interior. Just look at how stunning these seats are with the beautiful quilted leather. Even the floor mats are absolutely stunning. The craftsmanship, the beautiful hand-stitched Chiron logo in the headrest as well as on the sides here is absolutely exquisite. Now you'll notice that there is no center infotainment screen. Bugatti has done this to make sure that the Chiron never becomes out of date in terms of its interior technology. If we had a massive touchscreen with current day graphics, in about 5 years it would look like it's from the 1990s. Instead, we have this very thin center tunnel with a series of rotating dials. Now, depending upon which button you click and which mode you are in the infotainment screen in the center of the steering wheel, that'll show you different display options for these dials, whether it's climate control or range or really whatever you want. We've got our gear selector right below that and the ability to turn the radio on and off. The same kind of future-proofing goes for the center dash area. We have an analog speedometer in a world where everything is digital, and it goes all the way up to 300 miles an hour. That's right, the Speedo reads 300. Is it a bit optimistic? It's hard to say until they finally go for that top speed run. Now, to the left and the right of that, we have two TFT digital displays with incredibly sharp graphics. On the left side, we get this rev counter that looks more like it's out of a fighter jet than an actual car. It looks almost like this power meter gaining energy as it approaches redline. Then to the right of that, we've got a screen for your radio, your navigation, so on and so forth. Now, one of the coolest parts of the interior of the Chiron is this C line here, or the Bugatti line, and it actually works as an LED light. It's hard to see in this lighting, but at nighttime, if you are to turn this on, it actually illuminates. I've never seen anything like this in any other car. In fact, Bugatti claims this is the longest continuous LED in the interior of any car in the automotive world. As you can imagine, there are quite a bit of firsts in the Bugatti Chiron. As you'd expect, there isn't a ton of storage space in the Chiron. The front trunk was specifically designed to be 44 liters, which is the average size of a carry-on bag for an airplane. But in the interior, well, it's quite small. We've got this compartment here and one right here. Of course, we've got the glove box, which isn't all that large. But the one disappointing part is there's no real storage behind the seats. That's because the engine and powertrain is so massive. There's no space to put a bag behind the seat, although if you pull the seat forward, not only do you realize how gorgeous the carbon fiber backing of the seats truly is, there is actually a pouch here for a little bit of extra storage. All right, guys, this is my first time behind the wheel of a Bugatti Chiron, which is essentially tied for the first place in terms of my favorite car ever produced. This and the Agera RS. Now, I drove the Agera RS in London, and from what I can tell, I've been in this car for all of 10 seconds. It is a radically different experience. The Agera RS was violent, brutal, visceral. This feels like a car you could almost drive every single day. So we've got 5 different driving modes in the Bugatti Chiron that are controlled by this little toggle on the steering wheel here. Right now we are in EB mode, which is a Tourer Bugatti automatic mode that automatically adjusts the electronically controlled dampers for optimal comfort, but also agility at the same time. I imagine that's the mode that the majority of Bugatti owners are going to be traveling in. Then we have lift mode, which we just used to get out of the gas station there. And lift mode raises the front end of the car so you can get in and out of inclines or transport it on a transport truck. Then we have Autobahn mode. Autobahn mode automatically activates at 112 miles per hour. It lowers the car slightly, it stiffens the suspension, it raises the wing to its highest position for maximum stability at high speeds. The top speed in Autobahn mode is a lowly 236 miles per hour. Then we have handling mode, keeps the wing in its utmost position for optimal downforce, increases the steering responsiveness, and tightens those dampers once again. Lastly, we have top speed mode, which actually I'm going to talk about in a second because we are entering a highway, which means it's a perfect opportunity to feel what 1,479 horsepower is like. Oh my God, that is awesome. So top speed mode requires a secondary key, the speed key, which you insert just to the left of the driver's seat, and then it unlocks the ability to turn it into the final mode and go that top speed of 261 miles an hour. Get this for acceleration statistics. It's mind-boggling. Bugatti claims that the Chiron can do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, so 62 miles an hour, in just 2.4 seconds. So I mean 0 to 60 in something like 2.3 seconds. That's thanks to its all-wheel drive, its incredible power, and its 7-speed double-clutch transmission. In fact, when they were testing the Chiron, they made sure that it could do 200 launches in one day before they checked it off to go into production. 200 launches in one day. The quarter mile happens in a face-ripping 9.7 seconds, and it's able to do 186 miles an hour from a standstill in just 13.1 seconds. That is absolutely insane. So what is this actually like to drive? I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be behind the wheel of a $3.5 million car. It's actually unbelievably comfortable. It's almost like a super, super fast Bentley. Inside, there's no road noise, no wind noise whatsoever. It's completely isolated, although there is good penetration of the exhaust note into the cabin. You can hear that W16 very well. It's nowhere near as visceral or violent as something like the Agera RS is. That single clutch transmission between gear shifts was absolutely neck snapping, but it was also slower between shifts. The shifts happen instantaneously. It actually has the largest clutch ever fitted in a production car for this 7-speed unit developed bespoke for Bugatti. Visibility in the Chiron is actually not bad. We have a split rear window behind me divided by that C line, but surprisingly, even with that massive rear wing, you can see pretty well. Visibility out the front as well as the side is great as well. Honestly, if this had a decent amount of storage space, more than it has, you could totally daily drive this. Now, if you don't have to go on long weekend road trips or anything like that, you could drive this every day. It's actually unbelievable how smooth this car is at low speed. With that much torque, 1,180 pound-feet, for the transmission to be able to surge forward from a standstill with no lurching or no aggressive feeling is an unbelievable feat. I'm in EB mode right now, which the steering is surprisingly light. The car actually feels really easy to drive, almost like anybody could drive it as long as you don't have a lead right foot. Then when you do get on the gas, the power is unbelievable. Bugatti uses a 2-stage turbocharged system, so 2 of the turbos kick in for the first 3,800 RPMs when you're going from a standstill to prevent immense turbo lag of all 4 turbos kicking on at one time. Then after 3,800 RPM, the second 2 turbos kick in. That gives you a flat torque curve between 2,000 and 6,000 RPMs. Now there still is a bit of turbo lag, but the acceleration is unbelievable. We're gonna go ahead and switch the car into Autobahn mode now. Actually, let's switch it into handling mode. All right, here we go. Oh my God. It is unbelievable how smooth the power delivery is in this thing. Corner's really flat too. Well, we're not on a racetrack and there's no real way to test the true performance of the Chiron's handling capabilities. With its double wishbone suspension, electronically controlled dampers, it is significantly more capable around turns and on a racetrack than the Veyron was. All right, we got another little straightaway. Oh my gosh. It feels like it gets quicker and accelerates faster the higher the speed you reach. That is unbelievable. Oh my God, this thing is fast. Downshifts, absolutely instant. Oh my God, this car is awesome. And for the people who don't like the way the Bugattis sound, in person, inside of the cabin, it's a totally different experience. You hear the turbos whooshing, the wastegates, and that meaty W16 sounds like absolutely nothing else. No, it's not a naturally aspirated Pagani Zonda or a Lexus LFA, but it still sounds awesome. I think what's so incredible about this car is not the 0 to 60 time, but above 60 miles an hour. The power delivery is unbelievable, and it just climbs speed at a rate I've never experienced in a car. And it's so controllable, whereas the Koenigsegg felt like it was trying to kill you the entire time. Now, that is an awesome experience in its own right, just a totally different way of delivering a hypercar experience. With the all-wheel drive system, the power is just so much more manageable, and you feel like you're a lot more in control than other cars I've driven at this power level. Obviously, the amount of attention the Chiron commands is unbelievable. I stopped at the gas station, everyone wanted to take pictures, was asking what type of car it is, and everywhere you drive, people are looking. So, I mean, it goes without saying, if you're looking for a car that doesn't get a lot of attention, is trying to fly under the radar, Bugatti is not the car for you. You know, they say never meet your heroes because pretty much the only outcome is being disappointed. And when you drive your ultimate dream car, it's a pretty scary thing. One, this car is worth a ridiculous amount of money, so driving it is quite intimidating. But two, is it actually as good as you've envisioned in your mind? Well, the Chiron exceeded my expectations in every single way. It sounds better in person. It sounds unbelievable behind the driver's seat. The power delivery is unbelievably smooth. The gearbox is quick. The acceleration is ridiculous. And the steering feel is absolutely top notch. So I'm happy to say that driving my favorite car of all time has not left me disappointed. It exceeded my expectations in every single way. Oh my God, the power is unbelievable. Oh. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. This is one of the coolest cars, if not the coolest car I've ever driven in my entire life. Once again, special thanks to Wheels Boutique and ANRKY for making this review possible. Make sure to follow both of them on Instagram. Whew, can't believe I just drove a Bugatti Chiron. All right guys, I look forward to seeing you next video.